What's up, y'all? I'm PC McCray.
Hey, y'all, my name is Shaunda Head, and this is the Everything Has Changed podcast.
From 2 college roommates to 40-something adults, life has been lifing, and we want to talk about it. We're the new adults, y'all. How did that happen?
I don't know, P, but we got to talk about it.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Let's go. Welcome to another solo episode with Shaun. Today, there's really been something on my heart that I wanted to talk about, or really that I wanted to dive further into, because if you are a regular listener to our show, then you will know that me and P always, well, first of all, we talk about a lot of stuff, let's be honest, but we probably going to talk about something woo-woo. And we're going to talk about just how we're getting through with all the things that we have going on in our lives. And, we know that you all have probably the same kind of stuff going on with your lives. So we always want to jump in front of the mic and let you guys know how we're dealing with stuff, how we're making it through. And so if you're a regular listener to the show, then you know that we talk a lot about the word surrender. And I think maybe even the last time that we talked about it, it was P who was saying surrender more. That was a phrase that she hit me with. Sometimes y'all should be hitting me with phrases and words, and I need to take a second because it be just that serious. It's just that deep, because when she said that, it just kind of flashed in my head like there's always going to be a point where you can surrender more. We talk a lot about how people always are talking about surrender. It's like we all understand, okay, that it's a thing that sometimes you're called in your life to do in order to either make it to the next step, get through whatever hardship, whatever. We all kind of understand the concept of surrender. We all talk about the concept of surrender. We do not all do the concept of surrender. And we don't, I think, often talk about just how hard that is. We just talk about as that, like, hey, that's likely the last step. I don't know what to tell you. Go ahead, surrender. Give it to God, right? In the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, they talk about the concept of giving your worries and cares to the Christ consciousness. I think that's the phrase they use, Christ consciousness. I don't even know why I'm doing this. It just feels like I'm supposed to do this. Like, get thee off of me, right? Like, take it out of your aura and put it onto something else. Give it to God, right? So as I was just kind of ruminating on what I wanted to run my mouth to you guys about today, it just kept coming back to me that surrender more, surrender more, surrender more. And if I can find which episode we had this conversation in, then I will drop it in the show notes for sure. But I know that the last time we talked about it, that was the way that P phrased it, surrender more. And it's so potent. And I wanted to just talk about what that's meant for me in my life, because sometimes I feel like when we talk about these kind of concepts, it's much easier for people to understand, either if there's a story behind it or if we can kind of put a name to a face so that you can then kind of draw from it whatever will help you in your life. So actually, to be frankly quite honest, surrender is one of the concepts that I actually journal about a lot. And let me also say, I am not a good journaler. I'm one of the people like, I'm a journal. I'm going to write in my diary. And then I write for like 3 days. Diary is funny. I'm 43. I don't have no diary. But I did when I was a kid, right? The kind with the lock and key and all that. I'm sure mommy didn't care one bit about whatever I was writing in my little diary, but I sure had one with a key, child. But I do try to journal from time to time. I've talked on the show before about morning pages, which is a type of journaling that her name is escaping me right now, but the author of The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron, maybe. I do talk a lot about, or I have talked a lot about that type of journaling, which is kind of like a brain dump at the start of every morning. Really, really helpful for people to just kind of get out of your head. It was written for creatives. I find, and when I see other people talking about it, a lot of times it's not even just creatives anymore. It's just a really great way to kind of get out of your own way. It's a practice that you do every morning. You brain dump for like 3 full pages, and then you go on about your day, literally first thing in the morning, right? But even that, I don't really consider journaling. I consider morning pages because it's a very specific way that you're supposed to do that that really kind of helps your psyche. So journaling for me is something that as an adult I've always tried to do. They talk about manifestation, they talk about prayer and all this, like journaling is kind of like always included. So I've tried all kind of different ways, especially along with when I'm call myself trying to meditate and I pull the journal out to kind of write down what comes to me, right? And that's kind of the phase of life that I'm in right now. I will, whenever something comes to me, I will journal it. And a lot of times I put it in my notes app first, but then I will always, always, always go back, transfer it over to the journal. Now, the real question is, Shaun, when does that transfer take place? Because I can tell you it ain't gonna be same day. I try to date it when I write down something that comes to me so that then when I put pen to paper or pencil to paper or belt to ass, just kidding. When I actually put it on the paper, I know at least, okay, this is the month and the year that this came to me. So that's what I do now. I don't try, unless I'm specifically looking at doing morning pages, I don't try to fill up pages. Hey, here's what I did today. Right now, I'm using my journal only as a place to record my thoughts but more so record the things that come to me. I'm a person who things come to me. Some people, if you're in a spiritual community, you'll call them like downloads and stuff, but just messages, what have you. Sometimes it's a thought that I have. Sometimes it's like a, like a mind blown emoji idea. It could be anything. I'm also a dreamer, so I will write down my dreams in a journal. But what I'm trying to say, y'all, look, y'all know I know it's going a tangent. Okay, don't. Okay, sorry. Um, But basically, my journal is just like lines of stuff. Boom, 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 boom. It's been that way for the past 6 months to maybe even a year now, because we're now in February 2026. So I love it because then I can just kind of like, I almost call it like scrolling, like I'm in my phone, but I can go back through and see what's a thought or what's a message, what's a download that came to me and when, right? Because the thing about me is, almost nothing comes to me in the exact season that I'm supposed to use it. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that happened to other people. But I take a lot of notes. I write down a lot of stuff in my journal that comes to me. And then like 2 years later, I will press go. And I don't mean that to say, oh, like you're sitting on stuff for 2 years. I don't even know how I came to this conclusion, but things come to me before their time. So hey, if that happens to you too, let me know. Cause I can only tell y'all how it happens for me, but things come to me before their time. And so once I realize that, I'm like, okay, I don't even actually gotta stress myself out trying to follow whatever it is I've now written up. I just gotta get out of my head. I gotta put it in a place where I can find it when I need it. Can't tell you how I know when I need it, but I will go flipping back or scrolling through these quote unquote journal entries were literally just lines of things. And I find stuff when I need it. I do have content written in my journal. If content specifically comes to me, what I mean by that is like if you're like a business owner, small business owner, you'll understand. Got to stay up on the content wheel, right? I'm actually in a season of my life right now where I'm not even doing like outwardly facing content. I'm like, I'll get back around to it, okay? But I'm also a service provider, so it's a little different for me. So anyway, that's the way that I keep my journal. Okay, so all that, look, I just preface all of this with all of that. Because when I thought about what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, I went scrolling through my journal and I had P's words like rolling around in my head for some reason today. Surrender more, surrender more, surrender more. So here are some thoughts that have come to me over the past, let's say, year that were helpful to me, are continuously helpful to me, are actively real-time helpful to me. And my hope with sharing these things, like literally straight out of my journal, is that they may be helpful for somebody out there, for a listener, whether it be right now, today, a year down the line, when you run past this video or this episode, whatever the case. And I'm actually just going to, I've pulled out a few notes, a few sidebars, and I'm gonna read it to you straight out the way that I wrote in my journal, and let you know what I mean by that. All right. So literally, when P said surrender more, I went to P said surrender more, and I wrote that down in quotation marks. Here's something I wrote. Maybe surrender is also me surrendering to what my intuition is saying is true. Because here's the thing. If you are an intuitive like me, and I don't know, I'm not like well versed to know, like, if I know that they say everybody has an intuition and everybody can get messages and everybody has gifts and all those things. Outside of those words, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not well versed enough to know what that looks like on everybody. But for me, I am an intuitive. And before I even realized that, I just always had a really strong gut reaction. And life and things changed once I realized that if I listened to that thing, then certain other things were sure to follow. That's probably another episode for another day. If that's something you want me to talk about more, hit me up and let me know. Or we can talk about it with Pete, whatever. But that's probably a different episode. But when I wrote this, that my entire last 10 years has been a case study in surrender. And what I've realized from what I call my journaling, the quote unquote, is this past year, for me specifically, I've realized has been a practice in patience, which I do not have. Or I'll say, I've historically not had great patience. So then God kept putting me in situations where patience is all you had. And I started realizing when people say to me, oh, you're so patient, or you must be so patient because you deal with this and deal with that, deal with that. I'm actually not. And that's how you know when God is like, hold up, this is something you're supposed to learn. Because like I'm actually one of the lesser patient people that you may meet in your lifetime, or at least I was. And I still am not joyfully patient. I don't even think that's a phrase, but I'm going to tell you who that is. Not me, okay? I'm forced into these situations where literally all I can literally do now is just show up and just move through, right? Surrender. So as I sit and think about just the different parts and pieces of my life that have happened, it's really all been a case study in surrender. In particular, the last, definitely the last decade, for sure. I'm sure we could add a couple years on that, but let's not get in the weeds. When I first started focusing on surrendering in my life, I just thought about the fact, like, I'm a product of a single mom, a Black single mother, right? So my mom was going to handle some shit. She was going to handle it. It was going to get done, whether it was her, a friend, calling customer service, whatever the case. It was going to get handled. So as I grew up and became an adult and started having to handle things on my own without her help, like for instance, soon as my mother passed is when it became evident that my grandmother was suffering from dementia. So then she had to come live with me. She lived with me for the last 7 years of her life, and she passed at the age of 97. I was 31 when my 90-year-old grandmother came to live with me, and it was within a year of my mom's passing. I always thought that, okay, it got to get done. You do what you got to do, right? You do what you got to do so you can do what you want to do, all those kinds of things. But what I found particularly, I want to say during COVID or maybe 2019. So 2019, 2020, what I found was that my stress level was so off the charts because I was like, this must happen. This must happen. This must happen. Right? So the thing that changes you is when you realize that the thing that you've decided must happen ain't happening. Well, so now what you gonna do? You're still a human, likely still have some semblance of family. You likely still have work or school to tend to. You still got bills, household bills, pets, children, spouses, partners, friends, a life. But sometimes we run ourselves into the ground trying to make fetch happen. But we've reached a point in our journey where God's like, that shit ain't happening. How long we got to push until we realize that that thing is not happening? You run into, okay, well, how do I know something's not supposed to happen? How do I know something's never going to happen and it's just a no right now? All these questions we don't really got the answer to. We not God. We here for a good time, not a long time. But we run into kind of all those things. And for me, when my mind started to ruminate and do all that, that's when I was like, oh, hold on, Shaun. Hold on. You trying to figure some stuff out. Maybe it's not supposed to be figured out. Maybe when you get to the end of your rope, maybe you're just supposed to stand there and see what happened. Because maybe you at the end of your rope, and maybe that's just it. Maybe you're going to be able to still just hang. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you're not going to fall off the cliff. Maybe a wind is not going to come over and blow you. But we've already decided either this is what's going to happen if I let this continue to go on, or this is what's going to happen. It's a fear. It's all fear-based. I'm not saying not to go after stuff. I'm not saying not to manifest stuff, because I've done all the above and will continue to do all of the above. But what I've noticed is that some of those things are not for me to make happen. But because I came up how I came up, I'm like, it's going to happen or it's going to happen. It's going to work or it's going to work. There is no plan B, yada, yada, yada. Likely, just off the basis of it, true. But I do think there's value in understanding there are going to be some things that happen that are outside of your control. Your job is to show up. Your job is to be present. Your job is to just wake up that day, whatever the case. Your job is now to let go and let God. Give it to God, right? Give it to the Christ consciousness, whatever you want. Let the universe take. Jesus, take the wheel. Never mind. You know what? I don't like Carrie Underwood anymore. So scratch that. But your job, we reach a point where it's literally our job to let it go. And that's the part that we be like, nah, though. Because if I let it go, then this is going to happen. If I let it go, then that's going to happen. And so when we move into the surrender, it's not, let's not take any actions. It's, I've done steps 1 through 10. Now I'm beating myself up trying to find a step number 11 when there is no 11. Or 11 is, now give. And then what if you're giving to yourself by leaning into the surrender? Because at the end of the day, if you believe in anything, then that means that you believe there's a power or something that's greater than yourself. You pray to something outside of yourself for help, right? But if we praying for help, then we got to let them help, right? If we talking to God, if we talking to our ancestors, if we're talking to archangels, we have to let them help. Letting them help is not saying, help me. Or like me cussing at the sky. That ain't letting them help. Okay. That's more so a request, right? But letting them help is literally getting out the way. But if we're trying to save the day every day, if we're trying to stop all this stuff from crumbling down, we're not getting out the way. And then, of course, what if it's supposed to crumble? But we don't want it to crumble because that's scary and that's fear, right? Maybe this will happen. Maybe that will happen. Maybe I will lose my house. Maybe I will lose my job. Maybe he will leave me. Maybe she will leave me. Maybe he won't like that I said that. Maybe she will go and tell ex. When our brain starts going like that, that for me has historically, I'm now realizing, been a sign to shut the fuck up. Because if my brain finna start doing that, that means that that's actually something I'm supposed to let go. Because if you know me like I know me, I have depression, I have anxiety. So one thing my brain is always going to do is ruminate on some shit. So when I fall into that, I know now the answer is to fall back. Now, do I do it? That's a different question. Get out my business. I'm here to tell you my business, but not all of it. No, that is my sign to fall back because I'm only hurting things. But again, the way I grew up, single mom, we gonna fix some shit. We gonna stop some shit from crumbling, right? We're gonna hold some stuff up with our whole back, right? We're gonna say it with our chest. And now we up here literally holding up something that was not meant to be held up. Literally standing in the way of whatever's supposed to happen next. And now that just brings more suffering. And then we always just gonna come back to, well, God, what now? What I supposed to do, Lord? What I supposed to do? And the answer was, of course, surrender. Give it up, bitches. So it's like now we've wasted all these days and hours and times and weeks and years, maybe even for some of us, when the answer was the same that it was before we started doing all that. And so when I wrote, maybe surrender is also me surrendering to what my intuition is saying it's true. If you're like me, I'm an intuitive person, my intuition be holding some weight. How far do I got to let stuff go before I be like, oh, you know what? Or could be this that I thought it was 6 months ago, right? But I didn't kind of trust enough in my own gifts, or just I didn't trust enough in the messages that were being given to me to listen to myself. So now I hit the point of, what if surrendering looks like that thing that you think is impossible is actually not impossible? That thing that you think is going to happen can actually happen, will actually happen, but you got to get out the way, or else it's just going to be back in that cycle, that confirmation bias of, woe is me, nothing's going to be better, or this is what happened last time, so this is what's going to happen again, and all this stuff, right? This is what happened last time, so now let me do it this way because this is what happened last time. And I realize what I'm talking about can be, I don't know, maybe even seem like something quantum or something. And what I mean by it, like super duper woo, like, Shaun, shut the hell up. And if you're feeling that way, girl, turn it off. Turn me off, girl. You gotta listen to me. But what I find is certain stuff hit depending on what you're going through or what you have gone through. I'm thinking and saying stuff now that 10 years ago, a year and a half ago, I'll be like, that shit don't make no sense. But February 2026, Shaun, is like, oh, right? Like the Chris Pratt gift. So listen, for me, I have had to, you know how they say, you're doing your shadow work, which is kind of digging into not just your gifts, not that the good parts, your strengths or anything like that, but your weaknesses, your flaws, the the things that you might feel like you need to work on, um, but that you also need to accept. That's what it is. The things that you need to accept about yourself, right? Um, and so digging into those things, helping you and your body to accept the person that you are, can be considered shadow work. For me and my work, once I got very clear on surrendering was the thing for my life. And again, I don't know if this is the case for every single other body out there. But if you've had the thought, then maybe think some more, right? Maybe dig a little deeper, because for me, that went from I'm surrendering to God, letting him have it. I'm just out here like Jack and Rose on the Titanic, well, before everybody died, but arms outstretched, Father, I lift my hands to thee, right? But then I went into, okay, what if surrendering ain't even as hard as it's cracked up to be? They always say it ain't on you, it got to be in you, right? If the answer is in you, then that means you just sitting there with it the whole time. What if you surrendered to yourself? What if you tapped into, no, what if you believed what was in you? And I think a lot of times we don't believe what's in us because there may be a point in time in our life where we go do the thing and it don't work. And they be like, I was wrong. You're going to be wrong. It's life. How come that becomes the example for the entire rest of your life? Just questions that need answers. I'm just saying. I also wrote in my journal that I was trying to get to a clear channel to me. And a clear channel to me looked like taking all that stuff up off of me. Get it off of me. Get it off. Shake it off. Because we are encumbered and held down by everything that's happened to us since we were born up until the day that we sit here talking to each other. Cool. That's life. At some point, I think that we all reach a point where we're like, oh, well, that actually wasn't me. That was what my mom and them had wanted me to do. That, I actually didn't want to go to school for that. But I did. I didn't want to marry that man. I knew when I was walking down the aisle that when this could be, it could end up. But I did, you know. Okay, I got all these kids running around here. I need to do XYZ for them. I need to make sure they're good. I need to make sure they're straight. I need to make sure, I have to do all the things. I have to be all the things for them. So now that mama is like weighed down. And it's not like, oh, well, yes, sometimes people are doing these things to you purposefully. Half the time they're not. Half the time this is just us living life. We pull on different things. And so like me, I'm an empath. So I'm picking up stuff like I'm Velcro all day long, every single day. I have to have rituals and procedures and processes to clean myself off, to clean my aura out, to get back to me. That's the season of life that I'm in right now, if anybody's wondering. I'm trying to get back to me. And I got way far, of course, even as I was doing the work, right, of helping women to build brands based on them and started doing the work of who are you really? I was sitting over here not being me. I was sitting over here judging myself, feeling shame for not being me. I was sitting over, doing all those things. And so when I wrote that day, I need to get a clear channel to me. That means that even if I'm a person who physically is like Velcro, picking up things, I have to be intentional about letting things go. Surrender. I believe that's going to look different for everybody. So I can't even tell you how what surrendering is going to look like to you. I can tell you what it's looked like to me in the past. And I can tell you that I'm going to have to do that shit again, probably tomorrow. Had to do it last week, last month. You know what I'm saying? So it's an ongoing, evolving thing. But I think that we can beat ourselves up. So I think we have to always remember that healing is not linear. It ain't even like a circle. I suppose it could be a spiral, something like this. You always got to come back to the same point. But I feel like it's something that we're going to be doing throughout our entire lives. So if you think about it that way, if you up here trying to push a rock up a hill, you're going to be pushing that rock up that hill to the day that you die. At what point can you just let the rock fall? If it ain't smooth enough to roll gently, if every time you push it up 2 feet, it fall back 10 feet, at what point are you going to be like, oh, you know what? It's not that I don't think that thing is going to happen. But at what point do you realize I ain't the one that's going to make it happen, though? If you've done the manifestation, if you've done the prayers, if you've asked for help, all the things, maybe now you take it out of your hands and see what happens. Maybe you accept whatever it is that's supposed to happen. That does not mean that what you want to happen is not going to happen. That means become accepting, because it's something else that I wrote. I'm so sorry. I would say I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, but I wrote this to me. Okay, so don't, I hope this don't offend somebody, but this is what I wrote in my journal. Stop being a coward. Let it hit you. Accept the pain and then walk through it. You're trying to be strong and it's only showing your cowardice. And when I was scrolling and saw that I wrote that, I was like, okay, should you say this to the people? But I said this to myself because I've lived a life where there are certain things that are supposed to happen. That does not mean that we don't have the power that we have. That does not mean that we can't manifest certain things. We sure can. We can build our journey, right? But when you connect the dots, you remember when, okay, I'm 43 and our audience is pretty much around the same age. So don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. But you know the little connected dot puzzles they used to have when we were younger. Some of those dots might be larger or bolder than the others, right? Like the end dot, starting dot, end dot. There might be 3 dots that are larger than the others, and the rest is just all over the place, right? Some stuff is written into our existence, and depending on your beliefs, it could be that you and God met up, okay, before you came here and plotted out the things that were going to happen. That's my belief. And so certain things you're not going to be able to get around. You're not going to be able to get around meeting so-and-so because in 10 years, y'all are supposed to be married, because in another year, y'all are supposed to give birth to this child. And that was the whole reason of the whole thing. You're not going to be able to get around coming in with like a dysfunctional family or something. And because that's going to be the core and the foundation of how you move through life, like the first half of your life. And that's then going to help you either either exhibit those same qualities or become something different. But you can't become something different unless you've been hit with something fucked up. You see what I'm saying? Certain things we cannot get around. That's literally a part of life. And it is frustrating to be fucked up sometimes. But that's literally every person here. None of us can get around it. The thing is, we all got different stuff that we're going to have to carry. We all got different stuff that we're going to have to move through. So, with that being said, some stuff is going to have to hit you. Let it hit you. I wrote this because I felt like I was leaning into cowardice because I didn't want to feel the pain of whatever it was that I was talking about that day. Could have been any number of things. But again, that's fear. And we just got to know that fear is the whole thing. You're going to do it anyway. Nobody is here without fear. People be saying they are. I don't know. Maybe, could be. I'm no doctor. I'm no expert. But my belief is we all got fear somewhere, because that's another one of those things that we have to live with in life. Now, if we're doing something different in life, let me know. But in life, there are certain things. And so I don't really understand when people be like, well, I didn't do it because I was scared. We all scared. I'm scared right now. I'm talking to a camera with my squeaky voice. Finna put it on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? I'm not shaking in my boots right now, but that's because I've been running the business online for a long time. So that's the only reason. But do I always want to get out here and talk about my shit? No. But with all of these things, you're going to wake up one day and have the understanding that there's something you're supposed to do. So if you wake up one day and have the understanding there's something you're supposed to do and you don't do it because you're scared, to me, that's cowardice. Because to me, every single one of us have to do a lot of things that scare us every single day. You're not special. Not in that regard. Because you don't want to be scared. You don't want to feel fear, except that's literally a part of this lived existence. So I wrote, stop being a coward. Let it hit you. If you done did steps 1 through 10 already, step number 11. All right, come on in. Let's see what you got. Meet me outside. Meet me outside at 3 o'clock after the school bell rings. That's where we are now. Okay. Life got hands. Okay. All right. Well, come on. I'll be there. 3:05. I'll be there. Let's see what you got. I'm not going to say life gets easier with that revelation, but it's like, okay. I can't get around this. Why I'm still pushing up against you? Why I'm still sitting here talking to a brick wall? A brick wall not going to talk back. Why I'm doing that? You know what I'm saying? I think we like to predetermine what we want to experience. I think a lot of times we chalk that up to manifestation. This is what I want my life to be. This is what I want my journey to be. Again, I actually do believe in that kind of stuff. I just don't think that kind of stuff starts at like age 3 or 5 and stuff. I don't think we got control then. I think we live our lives in such a way that we learn where we can like push our gifts through. I don't even know if that makes sense. Those are the words that are coming to me right now. But I think we live our lives in such a way that we will reach a point, whether we're 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 43, hello? We will reach a point where it's like, I am in control of some of this stuff. And some of this stuff I'm not. I think that's the other side of the coin that we don't want to talk about. Not every single thing. There's certain things that are written into our existence, whether you did it, God did it, the universe, whatever the case. The universe has your back because there's a destination you're supposed to get to. How you get there is up to you. But best believe that little goal's still going to get hit. So I might be wrong. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. But if me being wrong is actually the price of me getting to that goal, then it is what it is. I'm cool with being wrong if that means I'm going to stumble upon where I'm supposed to stumble upon to. And I think that when we want to predetermine our existence, so we will go and do all kind of shit and look up and we be 30, 35 and all that shit that people said hey, if you do this, this what's going to happen. If you do that, that's what's going to happen. If you go talk to that person, that's what's going to happen. And be like, well, you know what? None of that shit happened. So I wasted all that trying to predetermine the life we want to have instead of actually living the life that we are given. And the only way to live the life that we are given, surrender. Or, as P would say, surrender more. You can find me on Threads or Instagram at Hey Shaunda Head. You can find P on Threads or Instagram at Better3701. You can find the podcast on Instagram at The Everything Has Changed Podcast. And we're also now on YouTube. Maybe you're staring at my lovely face right now. And our channel there is Everything Has Changed. I hope this helps somebody. See y'all next week. Me and P back together. Bye.
Want to stay locked in with us so you never miss an episode? Visit everythinghaschangedpodcast.com and join our email list. That way you'll be the first to know about new episodes and all the fun stuff we have coming your way. Meet us over there.